The Raya Lucaria Academy has played a very important role in bringing forward many powerful mages. The academy has a bunch of different areas of study in which a mage can dedicate their life to, with ultimately the result being that a certain type of magic is mastered. But among these mages that represent the different disciplines of Raya Lucaria, there's one type of group that has this shroud of mystery surrounding them in particular. The glintstone crowns of these mages are much more confined when compared to the glintstone crowns of the other mages, and it seems like the glintstone crown is hiding something. These mages are battle mages, and also known as haima's followers, mages that are intelligent but also have strength. Do you recognize the sorceries that these mages use? No? Yes? Maybe? Either way, keep the sorceries and these battle mages in The Grim Reaper is a powerful battle mage that decides who gets to live and who gets to die at any point in time. When your time has come, your time has come, and the Grim Reaper is more aware of that than anyone else, really. While the Grim Reaper was once a student of the Raya Lucaria Academy, the Grim Reaper ultimately went on a different path in life. The Grim Reaper was a bit of an outcast at the academy, and his motives for joining the academy were very different from the others. The Grim Reaper was eventually banned from the academy for misusing his knowledge of magic. While Haima was originally the adjudicator of the academy and with his followers went on a mission to get rid of conflict in the world, the Grim Reaper was not interested in that at all. In fact, the Grim Reaper just wanted to know of powerful magic and hated his former colleagues to the point that he actively searches them out these days to eliminate them one by one from this world. You could say that the Grim Reaper wants to be an adjudicator as well, but then in the entire world and following his own rules and with a lot of killing. The Grim Reaper has extensive knowledge of many sorceries thanks to years of studying at the academy, mastering an arsenal of destructive sorceries while using scythes as his main weapons. The Grim Reaper doesn't use standard scythes, however, but rather scythes that hit exceptionally hard and have this particular magical infusion that makes them more deadly than anything else. The explosive combination of everything together might very well make the Grim Reaper one of the strongest characters to have ever lived in the world of Elden Ring. Can you really say otherwise when you destroy your enemies so hard that it just completely makes them not even proceed to their second phase in combat? The Grim Reaper is a strength and intelligence build, and optimizing your starting class pick means that any of the following classes will be the best for this build. I like the Astrologer the most due to having stats that give you the nicest early game for this build. And then finally, a very important step to get the absolute best start possible is to hit that subscribe button, and with that you will also join the ranks of the legends that already did so before you. Speaking of legends, today's video is sponsored by Gemstone Legends. Gemstone Legends is made by RPG enthusiasts for RPG enthusiasts, just like us I guess. But it's actually a game where many genres are combined into one, and that idea has worked out quite well, as you can see. You can download and try the game for free using the link in the description or the QR code on screen and receive an amazing starter pack. So Gemstone Legends has a puzzle style element to it, but it also has that RPG element because it has a lot of different heroes with different unique skills that allow you to vastly change your strategy for every fight. And you can use various epic combo attacks to solve these puzzles and beat powerful monsters to build your empire in a high fantasy RPG open world. Oh, and the game has dragons. Who doesn't like dragons? Come on. Then there's also a PvP mode where you can align with other dragon riders to compete in guild wars, and a Discord that you can join to always stay up to date. You can find me as well in the game, by the way, under my own name, so download the game for free on both Android and iOS and come play with me. Again, the link is in the description, or you can scan the QR code as shown on screen and you'll receive a nice starter pack worth $50 with these items. Back to the video. This build is so OP, it is an all game build, meaning early, mid, late game build, NG plus million, you get the idea. Therefore, I will show you how my Grim Reaper build works on bosses in every part of the game and showcase how the build fully progresses from start to finish, a bit like those challenge runs, which are also usually a full playthrough, but in our case the bosses will be the ones having the challenge. Looking at the lore in the game, we have to take a look at one particular Haima battle mage. It's this one, all alone in the Alts Plateau. This is the only Haima mage that actually drops the armor set that they wear when you kill him, and when you take a look at the headpiece of this set, you will see that it will boost your strength and intelligence. making this the only armor piece in the entire game that in fact boosts those two attributes at the same time. We can therefore conclude that the haima battle mages and the sorceries they use represent a strength and intelligence battle mage according to the idea of the game. And that is good news, thankfully, because the sorceries that they use are really good. Now, my idea of a strength and intelligence build is that we want the best aspects from both attributes and mix these aspects together. I want the stance breaking capabilities and raw explosive power of a strength build, and I want the magical burst and utility of an intelligence build in this build. Thankfully, both the Gavel of Haima and the Cannon of Haima encapsulate that idea perfectly. So let's start off with these two sorceries. The Gavel of Haima is a great sorcery that has one of the highest poise damage values out of all sorceries in the game. Literally, you can chain cast it a few times and it will just break whatever you're fighting. With it, you get so much control, not just versus mobs, but also versus bosses, as you see. Not only that, but it also allows for a quick follow-up with another sorcery, or in this case, more importantly, your weapons, which is great since it combos very well into the Ash of War that we'll be using for this build. Then Cannon of Haima is going to be your AoE nuke for this build. It's incredibly powerful early on as it has incredible explosive power that just blows everything up and really erases an entire group of enemies in one go. But it maintains that power all the way till the late game, and therefore you definitely want to keep it for your entire playthrough. Next to its AoE nuking capabilities, it also has great poise damage, which makes it overall just an amazing spell. Now, regarding getting sorceries early on, there are a few more sorceries that you'll want. First of all, Great Blade Phalanx. Great Blade Phalanx conjures these three big ass magical swords, and you know exactly what that means, maybe. This sorcery has great poise damage built in, and you can cast it preemptively before heading into battle or really at any point in combat relatively safely. Therefore it works awesome as a defensive sorcery, and more importantly as a sorcery that you can use as the first sorcery in a chain of attacks for a nice combo that sets up for you stance breaking your opponent reliably while also doing good damage as well. Furthermore, we want Loretta's Great Bow as our long distance snipe tool. Loretta's Great Bow is awesome for that purpose. It can reach enemies that are very far away from us, and with it we can just nuke single target threats in the distance, complementing the rest of our build very well. And because it has such an amazing range, we can also use it as a nice opener for pretty much every boss fight. Finally, to finish the core of our early to mid game roster of sorceries, we also want, obviously, Rock Sling. Rock Sling is another sorcery with a lot of poise damage and normal damage as well, by the way, but since it's a ranged sorcery, it helps very well setting up the stance break and just doing good damage while you're in the distance and the enemy is approaching you. Accompanied with this spell, we also want to use the Meteorite Staff as our early to mid game staff. It is and remains the best early game staff in the game, and it also boosts crafty sorceries like Rock Sling. I will show you how to get all of this stuff right at the start of the game and our weapons as well later on in this video, because there are some tricks to doing it as efficient and as fast as possible. But first we need to talk about our weapons and combat. Now, for our weapons, we want to use the grave scythes, and not just one, we want to pick up two. And you can get two in fact, as they just drop like it's a normal weapon in the open world when it's a very powerful weapon. Having two does not only allow us to use the complete moveset of just a regular grave scythe, but it gives us an additional layer of using the power stance moveset of Reapers, including power stance jump attacks. And these are very powerful, especially in my setup. We want to infuse both Reapers with cold, yes, both of them. Now, these Reapers already come with built-in bloodlust buildup, but infusing them with cold will also net them a bunch of frostbite buildup, and at the same time the cold affinity also gives them great strength and intelligence scaling, making it a perfect choice for our strength and intelligence battle mage. For our main grave scythe, we want to put Loretta Slash on it. This Ash of War is absolutely amazing with a grave scythe, and this is especially the case now more than ever, after both aspects of that combination got a buff buffed not too long ago. This makes the combination smoother and more lethal than ever before. Not only does it look absolutely sick on a gravesite, by the way, it's not just here because it's pretty and it's for the visual, guys, it also does a great job at completely destroying your opponents. The reason for this is that Loretta's Slash is a multi-hit Ash of War that comes out very fast, and you can chain it with a lot of different things, like sorceries or other types of attacks, and just reliably slice up your opponents quickly and destroy everything. Now I will talk about the combos that you can do with Loretta's Slash in a second, but more importantly, it's an Ash of War that is smooth to chain, meaning you can also just spam it and just keep using it in succession if that's what you like, and destroy your enemies. Being a multi-hit Ash of War means that you can proc Blood Loss and Frostbite quite fast on your enemies, as every time you hit your opponents with any parts of this Ash of War, you will build up both of those status effects at the same time. For your offhand gravesites Ash of War, for early game it doesn't matter what you put on it, because we will be swapping between our staff and our offhand reaper all the time. Just make sure you infuse it with gold as well. That is the most important thing, because that means that with every jump attack that we do with both of our gravesites, we will build up a ton of frostbite and blood loss on our enemies, which is very nice, and Reapers have this satisfying jump attack to them that we definitely want to utilize. Now let's talk a little bit more about how Loretta's Slash combos into other aspects of this build. First of all, if you hit your opponent with a normal or a charged attack, you can combo it nicely into Loretta's Slash for a multi-hit combo that will be very lethal, especially when you use the stagger of a charged attack to then follow it up with a Loretta's Slash. This combo will just usually obliterate whatever you're fighting. Help me! But it's funny because the first part of Loretta's Slash will also usually stagger things, so versus mobs you can just use Loretta's Slash and it will just kill them instantly most of the time. But then you can also combo it into our jump attack, so when we use both of our Reapers to finish off things, or just as a nice quick follow-up that will deal great damage and usually already proc at least one of our two built-in status effects. And then you can also combo it into various sorceries, obviously, with the nicest combo being, in my opinion, with the Gavel of Haima. The Gavel of Haima already allows for a follow-up attack naturally with how the sorcery works, so chaining it into a Loretta's Slash is a lot of damage and poise damage in quick succession. So let's now tie everything together. I'll first start with the early to mid game bosses, and then the second part of this video will focus around late game bosses and late game evolution. Now, usually I will start off with a Loretta's Great Bow to get that nice damage in right at the start of your fight, but the ultimate stance breaking combo is to start with a Great Blade Phalanx. While then the enemy is nearing you, you start casting Rock Sling a few times until they get very close to you to then ultimately chain it into a Gavel of Haima. Usually this sequence of various stance breaking sorceries will do the trick of stance breaking your enemy, and it will usually be just right in time because guess what, the boss is now right in front of you. Stance broken. Then in melee range you will go for the critical hit, which will do juicy damage and also again build up frostbite and bleed, and then you can combo that again with Loretta's Slash and just your moveset of either using both your Reapers or just your main hand Reaper or just Loretta's Slash. It's really up to you. And that's what makes this build truly amazing, because it gives you a very versatile moveset that is also dynamic, where each component synergizes very well with each other, which makes it a lot of fun obviously to play my build, but it also makes it extremely powerful, because as you can see from the footage, the build is extremely oppressive and literally doesn't give your opponent any chance to do anything. If there are any moves, attacks or sorceries that you like in particular within my Grim Reaper build, you can also just spam those without putting a lot of thought to it and you'll do absolutely fine as well. Now you just saw me obliterating some early game bosses like Margit and Godric, but then I rushed to Radon, just pretty much at the start of a new playthrough, and here again you can see even with very low levels, in this case just leveling up killing Greyol, you can already absolutely decimate bosses that you'll usually face much later on even though you just started your new playthrough. The Grim Reaper can just do it all. Okay, before we get into the late game combat and how the build evolves later on, let's go over how to actually get all this stuff right at the start of the game. So get prepared, prepare your and here we go. First, let's get a head start. Get your horse from Melina at the gate front side of Grace. Get a bleed weapon. The Morningstar weapon preferably is a good choice right here. Pick up a golden pickled foul foot right here in Limgrave as well. Go to the Third Church of America, it's close by. Pick up the Flask of Wondrous Physic right there. It's useful for your entire playthrough, and use the teleport behind the church. This will teleport you to exactly here on the map, and you want to go south till you reach Fort Ferret. That's this spot on the map. Ignore all the enemies on the route to the fort, no matter how big they are. Before you go to the fort, make sure to pick up the memory stone at Lenny's Rise en route, so you can immediately off the bat use 3 sorceries instead of 2. And when you arrive at Fort Ferret, you want to pick up a very nice talisman. You want to ignore all the bats while you're running inside and move towards the ladder. Just run, climb up, and then pick up the Dactus medallion. This is very important, so don't forget to do that. Then keep moving till you get to the second gap and jump down. Move to the right of yours, pick up the golden rune that's laying around there, and then jump to the sneaky pathway to your right. Keep moving till you can jump down again, and there will be the Radican Sword Shield. If you're not familiar with this talisman, it's a very good talisman that will help us out because it provides a lot of relevant stats right at the start of the game. Then go outside, kill Greyol, the big ass dragon, with your Morningstar weapon equipped so you proc bleed and kill him quickly. When the dragon is almost dead, make sure to pop the golden pickled foul food that we just picked up so we get a bunch of extra runes. Now you'll have a bunch of runes, and it's just really a nice way to get a good start as it's pretty much free. Now that we have done the standard get OP early stuff, we can start with the actual build. Make sure to also use the golden rune that you picked up inside the fort as well. Then go level up. With your runes, get to level 36 like this. This will make sure that you have the requirements you need to use everything I showed you, plus a bunch of sustain with our investment in vigor. After this, pick up the Sacred Blade Ash of War in Limgrave. It's actually also right near the Third Church of America. Put it on any weapon, it doesn't matter which one. Starting as an astrologer, I just put the Ash of War on the sword that you get as an astrologer. Otherwise, you can also just buy a cheap weapon at the Round Table Hold. Any weapon will do, and you can put the Ash of War on that instead. Then after doing that, you want to bypass Stormville like this, go through the sneaky pathway right there, and you'll eventually get into Liurnia. One of the first locations that you will find when entering Liurnia is the Church of Irid, and that's exactly where you want to go. Talk to Tops right there. It's this guy. Make sure to exhaust all his dialogue options. It's needed to get the haima sorceries later on. After that, go to the nearby graveyard. Here will be 3 skeletons that drop our weapons. With the Sacred Blade on our weapon, we can one-shot all of these mobs, and more importantly, they won't resurrect like usually as they are very weak against holy damage. So that is very nice because that makes the farm very fast. Kill them over and over till they drop the 2 grave sites for you. There's also a nearby grave to this graveyard, by the way, where you can just reset the area to respawn these skeletons, and you can just keep killing them over and over. After you have 2 grave sites, it's time to upgrade them. Go to the Raya Lucaria cave right here in Liurnia as well. Drop down and kill the Crescelian right there at the bottom of this cave. You can control this fight pretty well with just using jump attacks. Then get the other half of the Dactus medallion in Fort Hyde right here in Limgrave. With this, you now have both sides of the Dactus medallion, and this gives you the ability to open the bridge that gives you access to the Altus Plateau. And then when you do so, you want to go to the Seal Tunnel in the Altus Plateau, pick up the Somber Stone Bell Bearing number 2 in the chest right there, and with that you can upgrade your weapons to +12. Now I would recommend to get them both to +12 before you do the next step, because you want to go to Caria Manor in North Liurnia after this, progress to the manor and just ignore everything en route, or you can kill everything if you want. But most importantly, just reach Loretta. She's the final boss. Kill Loretta right here and right now. With jump attacks and plus 12 Reapers, you should be able to kill her quite effectively, even though she's immune to our status effects. If you struggle a lot, you could also just use Spirit Ashes to make the fight a lot easier, but otherwise this works quite well as well. After you defeat her, you get both the earlier mentioned Loretta's Slash and Loretta's Great Bow. So you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and that is really nice. Right outside Caria Manor is the Intelligence Not Crystal tier, by the way. Make sure to pick this one up as well. It is really good and we want to use it for our entire playthrough. Now after getting Loretta's Slash, put it on your weapon and go to the Raya Lucaria Academy, the place where it all started. Make sure to pick up the key to enter it right here. After that, progress towards the wolf in the academy and kill him. It should be an easy fight with our upgraded weapons, and you will unlock the debate parlor side of grace while doing so, and the wolf will give you another memory stone so you can use another sorcery right off the bat. After that, you want to get the glintstone wet blade that is actually right outside this room in the academy's courtyard. It will be laying on a corpse in the office balcony right here. Then you'll want to go to the other side of the courtyard and pretty much keep progressing forward. Take a turn till you arrive at the crab to kill it for its glintstone crown. Then you want to proceed to the roofs to the left of the office balcony where we just picked up the glintstone wet blade. Just keep progressing over these roofs till you get to the building with open windows. Go inside that and pick up the glintstone academy key that will be laying around there for you to pick up. After getting the key, go back to Tops in the church where we just got both of our weapons. Talk to him and he will give you the erudition gesture. Now you're almost done with all the preparation, but you want to go back to the side of grace that you got when you were going to enter the Elves Plateau, or somewhere in the area of the side of grace basically, and then just move south till you get to the converted Fringe Tower. The converted Fringe Tower has both of our haima spells, and we definitely want those right at the start of the game for this build. So all of the preparation makes it definitely worth it. When you get to the tower, basically equip the glintstone crown that we got in the academy and use your erudition gesture in front of the statue right there. This will remove the seal. And now you can progress to the top of the tower to get both the haima spells. After this, we want to get our staff and rock sling, so for that go back to Limegrave, get the teleporter chest in the Dragonburn runes. This will put you in the Celia Crystal Tunnel. Just go outside, keep moving forward till you can get both the meteorite staff and rock sling. They are pretty much next to each other. And after that, we want to pick up the Great Blade Phalanx by going to the Cuckoo's Average Hill. There you want to kill Bowls, the Carrion Knight, as I showed you earlier in the video with the Gavel of Haima showcase, and after doing that he will give you in fact the Great Blade Phalanx sorcery. Now a few more things. You want to go back to the sealed tunnels. The miners here drop smithing stone number 5s, as you know from my previous videos, and with our cannon of Haima we have a very quick farm to kill them from a distance, and therefore this time it is different from usually. As a mage it's a bit more easier. You want to kill them, rinse and repeat till you have at least 12 smithing stone number 5s for our main weapon and 24 if you want to upgrade both weapons, but honestly just upgrade the main weapon with the Loretta Slash if you don't want to farm, and that will be more than enough. Also, if you want to speed up the farm, pick up the 8 smithing stone number 5s in the Celia Crystal Tunnel that we just teleported to for the staff and rock sling, and then you'll only need 4 more from this place. After getting enough smithing stone number 5s, go through the hidden passages in this sealed tunnel and just progress forward so you can drop down again, where you eventually want to lure the thing to this thing to break it open for 3 smithing stone number 6. With all of this you now have a plus 16 main grave side and either a plus 12 or a plus 15 offhand grave side, depending if you want to go the extra mile or not, but either way you will have a ridiculously strong start. Now after that, go back to the round table hold, infuse both our weapons with gold, which is now a possibility with our glintstone wet blade, and you're good to go, and both our weapons will now have all those juicy status effects while having the proper scaling for a strength and intelligence build, and all of that right at the start of the game, so we can enjoy that magnificence for our entire playthrough. Now finally there's one more thing to do. Get the magic shrouding crack tier, again near the bridge where you just entered the Elves Plateau and near the converted Fringe Tower. Go south and kill the Air Tree Avatar boss with everything you have, and with this you'll have the magic shrouding crack tier, which is an absolutely amazing crack tier for our Flask of Wondrous Physics. So this brings me to my next point, our gear and our setup for the entire playthrough. For our Flask of Wondrous Physic, you'll just want to run the Intelligence Not Crystal tier and Magic Shrouding Crack tier for your entire playthrough. These are really the best options, and as you see, we have them right at the start of the game now. The Magic Shrouding Crack tier in particular is an absolute gold tier pickup for this build for our Flask, because it will boost literally everything in our kit quite significantly. Let's also talk about the full progression path for Talismans. Early game is just going to be the Erratic and Sword Shield that we picked up, and with our little adventure to the Raya Lucaria Academy, you can also get the Grave and School Talisman after killing Margit. Then the progression path for the mid and late game looks as following. I would drop the Erratic and Sword Shield somewhere in the mid game, and ultimately you'll end up with these 4 talismans. The Magic Scorpion Charm is really good for this build, exactly for the same reason as the Magic Shrouding Crack tier in our Flask. And then the Shard of Alexander to boost our Loretta slash, and the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, because we have a very active playstyle with this build that makes us hit our enemies a lot in quick succession, especially with Loretta slash being a multi-hit Ash of War, so it is absolutely amazing. And then finally you want to get the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, which is also absolutely amazing with this build. It gives us a bunch of extra sustain, and it negates the penalty that you get from running the Magic Scorpion Charm, so it's pretty much a necessity. If you haven't unlocked it yet, then just use the earlier versions till you get this talisman. For our armor, I went full on aesthetic for this build. Use exactly these pieces or you will just never feel like a true Grim Reaper battle mage. Unfortunately, it is important to look good and to have something that fits the Grim Reaper, and these pieces do so quite well, if I may say so myself. But on a more serious note, if you want something with more functionality, then just get the most defensive pieces that you can get. Get over 51 poise while trying to stay in the medium load category so you can resist stance breaking hits, or otherwise for an offensive option you can run the Spellblade set or parts of it to boost Loretta's slash damage output even more. And then finally, let's talk about the progression path for stats before we get into the juicy late game combat and the absolute destruction of bosses that are found in the later parts of the game. Regarding the earlier levels, if you need guidelines to make sure that you have a good distribution at any level before level 125, then these are the stat distributions that I would recommend to you for 4 different breakpoints. I personally never went over level 125 with this build, so for a level 125 you want to use these stats. 50 vigor gives us nice sustain and tankiness as a battle mage. Then put some points in might and endurance like this to get a smoother experience in terms of not tiring out too quickly. Then in terms of our damage stats, since we are a hybrid build, we want to utilize the first main soft cap breakpoints. The intelligence part of our weapon has its first main soft cap at level 50. That is also the case for our Ash of War or Loretta slash, which by the way purely scales with intelligence. After that you get a lot less in return for putting points in intelligence in a hybrid build like this, to the point that I prefer putting the rest in strength, so we want to park our intelligence at level 50 for that. But with our Flask we will actually reach 60 intelligence, which means we also hit the first main soft cap for the damage output of our sorceries, so we have both aspects of magic related damage covered. Then you want to put the rest of our levels in strength. Now my stat distribution at level 125 will give us over 650 AR, a ton of frostbite buildup and a ton of bloodloss buildup on not just one but both of our weapons. And that sounds very juicy, right? Yummy yummy. This brings me to weapons. We still run exactly the same weapons obviously. For your offhand graveside, if you really want an Ash of War on it, because it doesn't really matter as you will be switching between your staff and your scythe all the time. But if you want an Ash of War, then I will definitely put Braggart's Roar on it, since it's a really good Ash of War for this build. It is locked behind a certain quest, but you can get it relatively early on, and it's actually a really good Ash of War that will boost a bunch of different things for us that are all relevant. The best staff for the levels that I show specifically in this video will be the Academy Glintstone staff, so definitely get that to optimize your damage output for sorceries, and it's what I used at level 125. If you don't cap yourself like I did, or you level up to the magical number of 69 in intelligence or go even higher than that, then replace the staff with the Carrion Regal Scepter, as at that level that staff will outperform the Academy staff and is also actually the best overall staff in the game, with no trade-offs for very high levels like that. For those that want to go to level 150, I would put 10 more points in vigor to fully soft cap on that, and then put 15 more points in strength to get a boost in your AR, and with that you will also almost reach the first main soft cap of strength as well for this hybrid build, which is nice. If you find yourself however using the magical aspects of the build a lot more and barely actually use the moveset of the scythes, they can also consider just putting those 15 points in intelligence instead. Now let's get into the late game destruction of bosses. Honestly, everything that applies in the early game is still exactly the same in the late game in terms of strategy, stance breaking and combos. And that is quite convenient here because 1, we don't have to replace everything and yeah, that's nice. And then 2, you can use your experience from the earlier parts to really transcend and become the ultimate Grim Reaper battle mage. As you see with Morgoth, we start out with the stance break early on using the familiar sorceries till he approaches us, and then we go for the critical hit where we just beat him up into ultimately the good old slash to quickly make him give in to our power. To assert extra dominance, we also just keep attacking while he's in the transition mode where he takes reduced damage and where we know that he will explode dealing damage to us, but we don't care about all of that. We take the damage like a champ and finish this fight like it's nothing. The fire giant comes next, and you know exactly how much HP this guy has, or maybe not exactly, but you know it is a lot. In fact, it is not a secret by now, but thankfully we have built-in HP percentage based status effects that make even quick work of something as beefy as this guy. Not even the fire giant can withstand the blades of the scythe, but still I will speed up the second part of the fire giant fight because it just takes too long with all the moving around and stuff, and ain't nobody got time for that. Then the good old foreskin duo versus the duo I'm not even going to talk here because I know everybody wants to just see the raw absolute stance breaking destruction that these demonic creatures deserve. Then we have our good hyperactive friend Mr. Clergy, man, that is totally not Malekith in disguise. This fight is really just a formality, one for the books one might say, just to say that we did it, because there's no way that this guy can possibly defeat the Grim Reaper, right? You can jump around all you want, but that is staring you right into your eyes, or something like that. Oh look, Malekith has come out. Well, versus Malekith you really don't have to think too much in this case. How do you defeat something that is so hyperactive as this dude? Well, you do it by being hyperactive yourself. And that means use jump attacks. And honestly, Malekith is taken down pretty quickly that way as the Grim Reaper. It is a pretty easy fight. Then we have Gideon. I already showed this clip earlier in the video, but let me just repeat it once more just for the extra humiliation. This guy always talks too much at the start of the fight, so he deserves it. And with Loretta's slash, he's at least humiliated in style. After killing the all-knowing or the not-so-much-knowing comes one of my favorites, Godfrey. This is a fun fight, especially because you can completely break the guy with our stance-breaking combos. Immediately start the combo. When he's on top of you, you want to use some Gavel of Haima. Still you hear that beautiful sound of him collapsing into the ground, which you then can chain into that critical hit. Everything after that is history. Calmly drink one of your potions while he's down for the flags. And then it's really just another fight that you would have on a Tuesday, nothing too crazy, and you'll make him transition transition quickly. The second part is even better versus Horalu, because Horalu is extremely weak against the Grim Reaper, and Horalu didn't really think it through. Frostbite, blood loss, weapons that are extremely sharp and slash right through your flesh. What could possibly go wrong? Maybe flex your muscles and six-pack a little bit less next time and keep the armor on. After defeating Horalu, it is time to face Radagon. Now you might panic versus Radagon because he's immune versus various things in our kit, and Radagon is really just an intimidating guy. Look at all that luscious hair, but thankfully the Grim Reaper has an answer to everything, and not even Radagon is safe for our stance breaking capabilities and our Ash of War that comes out very quickly. You can also alternatively just spam Gavel of Haima for a quick stance break. After that it's just familiar terrain, it's just another juicy critical hit, and then it's just a matter of timing to finish him off completely. Now, before we get to the Elden Beast, the final boss, I'm quickly going to talk about sorceries that you might want to run in addition to the other sorceries that we already picked up, because we get 10 memory slots for a reason. Here are my recommendations. Comet is the first one, just a nice simple spell that hits like an absolute truck in a hybrid setup like this, and you can use it to one-shot a lot of mobs from the distance. Then Stars of Ruin if you need a good tracking sorcery that sticks onto your enemies in your kit for pretty much guaranteed damage. You can also get Loretta's Mastery as an upgrade to Loretta's Great Bow, but really either option is really good late game. Terra Magica is also a great pickup. As a battlemage that does in fact move around, it's kind of fun to make sure you stay in the zone that boosts your damage output. It's like an extra mini game, and if you succeed with staying in the area, you'll get rewarded with 35% extra magic damage, which is definitely a significant percentage and will make the fights shorter. And if you're casting onto something that is very far away in the distance and you're just standing still in the circle, then it's really just free extra damage. And then finally, this one is an absolute must-have, Shard Spiral. Not only does it fit our idea of a battle mage very well, because it exerts a lot of pressure on your enemies, which you then can chain into your actual attacks to quickly finish off your opponents, it is also an absolutely amazing sorcery versus big targets like the Elden Beast. And that brings me right to the final boss in the game. Shard Spiral is pretty much the final piece to the puzzle versus things like the Elden Beast that are completely immune to all status effects and have good magic absorption rates. Shard Spiral just completely trivializes this fight, and really versus any big target, spam it and just look how high that damage gets in just a few seconds. It's a very good sorcery and fits this build perfectly. The earlier you get it, the better. And now we have beaten Elden Ring. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe, you know you want to do it, otherwise you wouldn't have reached this part of the video, and also hit the bell so you get instantly notified every time I upload something. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to go the extra mile and directly support the channel and my future videos, you can also become a member of my channel or become a patron, whatever you want to do. Thank you, and finally don't forget to check out Gemstone Legends, scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description to download the game.